Lake effect rain is what
Oh,
I'm being told.
I guess we're far enough away.
Sounds awesome.
There's got to be some downside to being on a beautiful lake, and there you found it.
There you go. And I have an outdoor wedding to go to tonight too. So
Great.
Ooh, God.
we'll see what happens.
Mhm. So is the topic of this branding?
We do it every Friday.
Oh,
We
okay.
talk about marketing, branding,
Right.
all-
Outreach, isn't it now?
outreach, depending on if your organization believes in marketing or outreach or different variations of the same word.
Excellent.
I'll call it whatever you want to call it.
There you go. So how does one market and outreach in your field?
Well, that's a good question. First thing is you try your hardest.
You hire these guys.
Well, yeah, well, then you realize your hardest isn't good enough, and then you start looking for people who are probably a lot better at it than you are, and that you've had some work with before, and that would be KBL. So as far as goes, and I've had some experience with Adam and Dave previously, and through actually probably about 5 or 6 years now.
Usually, yeah.
And I've been, as much as everyone thinks they know something about whether it's Facebook and or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. It's like you don't go to the guy down the street to do surgery. You go to a specialist, and bottom line is, there are a lot of people, and I have encountered a lot of people, especially people in advertising or in computers, who say, yeah, we know about social media and stuff like that, and we can do that for you. And I generally have not been, I would say, let's put it in a nice way, I'm much happier with what KPL does than the flip side of that. I guess is I'm trying to win my political points right now, or not get too many demerits.
We're a noble party, so
I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's been the best thing that KBL's brought to the table, and why is that?
It's kind of probably a combination of things. I would say it's probably a thorough knowledge of the audience that we're trying to reach, and an open ear to that. I mean, a lot of my experience and where I probably have reached some dissatisfaction with folks is they have either a cookie cutter approach that they're going to put down. I probably, being in this case workforce, but in my prior manifestation as an economic development unit, I think there are people who think they know something about it or know what your audience is, and they're not really listening to who you're trying to reach out to. And I've been very happy with the willingness of Adam to listen. He's bringing in his own ideas, but at the end of it, it becomes a collaboration. And I can see that the information that I'm putting into it is showing up, and hopefully together we form one human being who's functional and that can get reach out to the people we're looking for. And I think
Adam, well, it's funny
today.
Adam and I say it all the time. People buy from people. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It can be outreach, it can be branding, it can be canned cocktails, it can be restaurant. People want to see relatable people. Right. And the one thing that never goes out of style is telling a good story. The mediums might change, right? Because it used to be newspapers and books and magazines and things, but sure, now it's just Facebook, LinkedIn, LinkedIn and Instagram, whatever, but it never goes out of style.
Right. Well, plus the other thing I think that Adam has, and his company has. It's not just Adam. I think Adam has has infused it. Is that it is also beyond that. It's also the human touch and the willingness to go out there and be present with people, which it's very interesting to me. Dealing right now, I'm dealing with virtual job fairs in person, indoors, outdoors, that kind of thing, and people have some people are really craving that right now, to get out of the house and to have that, one-on-one contact. And computers and all that are one thing, but when you're seeing everyone from like that forward and you're not getting any other body English and or affect and kind of thing, you know, it is, and it's something that people miss. And I think also, I mean, I think KPL's done a good job of finding that happy mix and being knowledgeable with the people that I'm trying to reach, kind of thing.
We, Adam and I think it's just our kind of our natural personalities. We like to focus on the positive through all this, and it's hard, which it's hard to do. We know that people have been punched in the gut. We know that some people's businesses will never come back.
Right.
But in terms of consumers' habits and working from home, I mean, there's a lot of efficiencies and there's a lot of good things that have come out of this. I keep saying good things. Adam always says opportunities. He corrects me and says opportunities because you have to actually work to turn them into good things. My question to you would be, what part of your business has changed that you think even after this all lifts or new normal or whatever, what are you going to take forward that's been an improvement?
I think there's going to be a ton more virtual outreach as far as that goes, and also virtual work space. In that before you're going to be there at 8 and out at 4, punch your clock in and trundle in kind of thing. I think they'll be much more flexible. I'll tell you the truth. I'd be fair to say I was agnostic to that to some degree, and now I've kind of converted to. Although frankly, I came to work every day through this because I'm old and grumpy. But I can tell you, like before, I would not have been really particularly tolerant. Not tolerance, not the wrong word, but not as open to like people working and looking at it as as a little bit of a dodge. But I think I'm much more accepting of that and willing to say, hey, you know what, you can do it, and people have been performing their tasks. Where before I would say probably the old line is like, well, if they go home, they're going to be in the kitchen, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and dancing to the oldies or something like that, or maybe Wu-Tang Clan, but who knows?
We do that here too.
It's like I tell my kids, you're going to be the last generation that had a snow day. You're going to be able to tell your kids there used to be these things called snow days.
No, exactly. I have my wife is a teacher and my son is a teacher, and they're the realization came over my wife about 3 weeks ago about the whole snow day thing. And it's like, really? Like it was always funny because you have these professionals and they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they're friends, and they're all, when it's about the snow day, there'd be phone calls. I didn't realize there was as much excitement for teachers as it was for students.
So Adam, how did you and your team, how did you guys humanize outreach? Because no, please don't take offense, but I don't think of that as the most human, kind of pillar of business. How did you guys approach that?
Well, so we call it outreach because it's more important. So Bob is the director of workforce development for Broome Tioga County.
Okay.
So we've kind of labeled what we're doing as much more of an outreach project than a marketing or an advertising project because it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So that's kind of what we're going through now, where I think we're less than 2 weeks into this. So it's still very, very early, but it's just a lot of the same stuff that we talk about with everybody, like before anybody could get excited about what you do, they have to understand what it is and how it helps them. And, it's one of those things. We had our launch meeting a week and a half ago, whatever that was. Yep. Like, there's probably a half dozen times where I'm like, holy shit, you do that? Mm-hmm. And like, I pride, like, me, like I pride myself on doing homework on our people and understanding it. But, it's just one of those things where it's just like every client we ever work with, it's a mix of us learning and understanding what they do and how it's going to help, and then kind of building that bridge where the people that are going to need the services that they offer understand what they are and have trust that the team's going to do it. So that's kind of where we're at now is really kind of building that bridge with those ideas and stuff like that. But it's going to be a lot of fun, man. There's a lot of cool shit happening in that office that people don't know about yet. So,
and that was part of my, when I came in there, I just started there in December of this past year. And the thing that, I was involved in government and law practice and private and practice as well and in government, but I never really knew how much, the workforce all over the state is doing. These workforce units are in every county. and there are a lot of organizations that people think are doing it, whether it's on-the-job training or individual training, is that, I'm writing like about $2 million in checks each year for, on-the-job training, and that, or sending people to BOCES or SUNY Broome Community College, or even TC3, closer to your part of the world. And so I'm writing checks there. I'm writing checks to Corning Community College as well. So it just, it's kind of an interesting, broad-based thing that no one really knows. And when I thought who would be best to partner up with to get that, make that outreach, I thought, Key Branding Labs was the way to go, because it is, and I've witnessed this myself. They are a very cost-effective way to do it. It's a very efficient way to get that kind of marketing and make it both viral and decent, production quality as well in what they do. Whereas if I tried to do that on television or radio, it would just be way too expensive.
So Adam, how long have you and Bob known each other before you started working together?
Years for sure.
Yeah, there's probably about 2 or 3 years before we did the first contract.
Yep.
City.
So Bob, what was it about? Why did you think of Adam first? When the green light, when the light went off, why did you think of these guys?
Well, because he beat me into submission and tracked me down. No, he was. Well, that's maybe part of it. Is that, I think be fair to say that,
even going back before like economic development stuff. I think so that's kind of what he's talking about. That relationship that existed before we did anything.
But Adam is in the community. He's in there, and not in like a phony sense. There are a lot of people, who are the quintessential, whether it's the, I'll get myself in real trouble. Well, let's say they're prototypical community organizations, and there are many different kinds, and they're the usual suspects who, basically do a lot of virtue signaling and talk about being community leaders, but what they basically are, feathering their own nest kind of stuff. And I'm pretty much, I think the reason why he's smiling so much on the other side of this is I have a filter problem. and
so does he.
But I suffer from terminal bluntness. But I say, like, life's too short, to dance around this. And places in upstate New York don't have the luxury of sorting this out for another 100 years as we keep sticking our head in the sand. So I'm a bad person that way. But but seeing that is seeing him in Adam and in the community and doing things. But also, that was one thing. But I'd seen him working on some other projects that I'm like, well, that probably would translate along the way. And frankly, I'm one of these people who's out in the community as well. So we're just kind of, moving along. And if you know Adam, he's kind of a, old soul kind of guy, that people come up, and I suspect that people talk to him about all sorts of personal stuff that he's like, oh my God, not again. I really don't want to know about the boils on your ears, but he's one of these people, like, the parish priest, people want to confess to. So I think that's, probably a helpful, very calm, I guess what Cesar Romero, a calm, assertive energy.
I'll take that. That sounds good. I like that.
Whatever Caesar's last name is, guy from the whatever show.
We like to think of the world in T-shirt slogans. That's the new KBL T-shirt. That's the back right there.
Calm, assertive, yeah, 100%.
But you have to do it with his accent. That's the important part.
Calm,
assertive energy.
I'll work on it.
So Adam, it's amazing that and that proves so many of our points. That's why we do this show and this podcast is, when you're business developing, or when you're trying to grow your own business, whether it be an advisory business or a consulting business or a branding service or whatever it is, we say it all the time, just stay in your lane. Talk about the 3 to 5 things that you know about, that you're passionate about, that you're trying to do business development for. And that's what Adam did throughout your entire relationship. The two of you guys just had that relationship. And I know Adam, what he's saying is, I'll be over here when you need me. I will be over here when you're ready. I'll be here. I'll just be doing my thing, building my business. And it's amazing. That's why I asked that question, because this is what we tell people all the time. Adam and I get hit up for advice all the time. How do I do it? How do I grow my business? Simple. You put your 5 pillars on paper and you simply put out content into the world across the platform where you know your future customers will be consuming it. Right. And then when it comes time, they will come to you. So that's a great story.
Yeah, it's weird how this shit actually works in real life. You know?
Exactly.
Like, it's just one of those things, like we always tell people. We're like, you know, Bob's an example. A lot of the stuff that you and I are working on together is an example. Whereas, like, if you just went in, you know, first 30 seconds and tried to sell them on, like, hey, here's why you should give me $1,000 a month for the next year, they'd be like, get the fuck out of my office. What are you doing? You know, but when you actually invest the time and you have the patience and like confidence in what you're doing, all of that stuff is real easy. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then if it is 3 years from now, 6 years from now, like we have a client that started with us. It's been 9 years since I first met them. They just signed up this past fall, you know, and so it's just one of those things, but like that's sustainable because you know that they're coming to you in the right time when they're ready and they're prepared to not even just make the investment monetarily, but they understand, like they've listened to the shit we talk about every week, that like this is going to take 4, 6, 9 months before this really starts kicking in. But when it does, we're going to be glad we did it.
And it's hard. And that's why people quit. They don't have the patience. They don't have the patience, whether it be, you know, growing an outreach program or growing a marketing business or growing an advisory consulting business. People don't have the patience anymore. And that we've talked about, I was just listening to one of our first episodes the other day, is that my kids, this is the story I always tell Bob, is my kids who are 14 and 12, they can't even sit through a 5-second pre-roll ad on YouTube. They can't even, they hit X. They go, I want to get to my show or whatever, you know, to my video. And we live in this world where it's Snapchat and it's on demand. I want to see Star Wars right now. You don't need to wait until, you know, I want to see it right now. And I don't care what it costs. It could cost me $9.99 for a movie that's 40 years ago, but I want to see Star Wars right now. So it just rings true every single time we talk about this, is that as people's you know proclivity to wait goes down, it's the guys like Adam and I that our stock continue to go up because we do have patience in creating those relationships. Those things take time.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. It's like I can tell you from and you know I'll play the old man card at this point. It's fascinating to me, being that when I started practicing law, it was still in the age of writing letters and waiting. You know, the cycle might be a 2-week cycle between, you know, putting the letter together, writing it, sending it out, the mail going, the response being drafted, and then coming back. There might be a telephone call or two in between there, but probably not. And so it might be a 2-3 week process. You might get 2 letters out of that, maybe 3, in a response. And now it's like these things are happening in, you know, because people are like, you know, if you don't send a response back the same day, and sometimes I just basically need time to, you know, because the way I just do things, I just, you know, I'm going to sit and think about it. I'm not going to respond to you. I'm not going to say a bad thing to you. I'm not going to say a good thing to you. I'm not going to say anything to you. And then I'll come back 2 or 3 days later, like, okay, you know, here's what I'm thinking about. But in the meantime, you get like 3 or 4 emails. And at that point, I'm like a little bit like, okay, and I forgive it because I know that's what it is now. But it is, I find it very interesting that things that could take, 2, 3, 4 weeks to just go through, and everyone was totally cool with it. Now, if you do that, everyone's like, well, why didn't you respond? I sent you an email. I sent you a text message. You know, I saw you was delivered. What the hell are you doing? Like, you know, and I just say I'm sleeping in my office. You know? But it's the only good answer. But it's interesting.
So how are these 2 teams in this new partnership? How are you guys going to define success when this is all over? What's obviously you want to grow the business. Obviously, you know, do you have kind of a metric on that, or how are you going to define success, Bob?
Well, we're talking about the metrics. There's certain things we want to see is like, you know, greater, there's certain, we have a website and a Facebook, you know, page. Want to see bigger hits on that along the way. And that's easily traceable, you know, along the thing. And we probably don't get too much credit for thinking of it through that way. But also we should be seeing more people actually making like, whether it's, cold calls or cold, emails coming in, basically saying, hey, I saw something or other, or, my mother saw this, and, and then what's going on with that. Now that's a harder thing. We have to keep our antenna open for that, because a lot of people we're dealing with, again, these are folks, a lot of people are unemployed, or are don't have the the latest iPhone, Apple computer or whatever that's they can get back to very quickly. And one of the things we have is we have a computer resource room where we have 24 computers that people can come in and use for job searches along the way, and sending out emails to potential employers and that kind of stuff. So that's part of our audience doesn't have that material to really kind of respond in the way that we would see them there. And so we have to figure out ways to get to catch that information and to make some use of it. And the other thing is just having a higher profile. One of the things that we have, the organization I work for probably is referred to in like 5 different names, at least. And I want to have it. One of my goals is that when somebody goes to my place of employment, not everyone in my place of employment uses the same name. So I want everyone to have the same name, everyone to have the same brand on every piece of stuff that goes out along the way. And that's really one of the bigger challenges of it is and having that taken care of, that when people say OJT in this area, in this region, they're going to say OJT, they're going to say, Broome Tioga Workforce. That's the first place they're going to go. They're not going to go to, let's say their local chambers of commerce or their local IDAs, that kind of thing. They're going to say, it's Broome Tioga Workforce. That's what we're going to do.
The first step is we're going to define what OJT means and how it actually and then we're going to measure how many businesses use that, and the online trading platform, and walk-in traffic, and training assistance. The buckets are on the whiteboard in the back.
But actually, one of the amazing things to me when I started working there, again, on December 11th, is they don't have a list of customers. So they're like, so a list of customers would be, for my customers, are going to be every business in Broome County and every individual in Broome, Broome and Tioga counties. So what I can do is, the individuals, of course, I can get a phone book out, or to the extent that works anymore, or get a Google page or whatever. But the businesses are a little more much harder to get listing. And I have an intern right now who is dealing with the frustration of people not responding to his emails. But it's coming from Joe Schmo at gmail.com, and smart kid, wrote a great letter, but it's he's getting, I think, under a 0.4% return rate, kind of thing. So we need to figure out how to do that, and that may be part of the KBL's outreach, is to how to get people to respond.
Adam, what's the low hanging fruit for these guys? What's a great story? I know you already have the strategy in your head because that's what you do. What's the low hanging fruit for these guys?
Simply put, just to communicate to those groups of people that all this stuff exists. Mm-hmm. When Bob's, even just as a small business owner in Binghamton, like half the stuff I was like, wait, you can do that? Right. So I think that's kind of the big part. Like even just asking people like on our street here who own, the neighboring businesses that we know, I'm like, did you know this was a thing? And they're like, huh? Like, is Bob's cell number the same? Can I text him right now? And I'm like, yeah, man, I think so. But like, it's just, I think the most low hanging of fruit is just to communicate that it's there. Right. You know what I mean? Like the same way how a couple of weeks ago, like the whole big theme was like, nobody ever said yes without being asked the question. Like, nobody ever said, I'm going to use that resource if they don't know it exists. So I think that's kind of the big thing, is just to communicate what's there. So I think that there's a lot of, if you asked most people locally what Bob's organization does, I think that they could tell you a few things, but at best, those are like the 8th and 10th most important things that his office does. Yeah. Meaning that, there's a lot of love and there's a lot of light that needs to be shown to the other 90%. And like, that's like the real, mountain moving type stuff. So it's weird. Me and Dave were talking about it this morning because he's actually, you gotta go meet him.
I gotta go get
pictures. But we were talking about it there. We're like, we're really quite literally starting from phase one, which is, depending on how you look at it, can be a little overwhelming. But for how we normally approach stuff like this, it's just incredibly exciting. Because, it's one thing if you have to scrape together ideas or things to talk about, but, we kind of have the opposite situation here where there's just so many things to talk about and there's so many ways that we can do it that it's almost overwhelming with possibility and excitement. So I think that's kind of the cool part. And then just the new space that they're moving into, there's just unlimited amounts of just paths we can take to tell that story, but it's going to be a good one.
The other thing I think for KBL is we are a pretty blank slate, and I'm relatively open-minded for a middle-aged bald guy. So so I think one of the things we're offering to KBL is kind of an interesting problem. And I totally agree that we've hidden our candle under a basket, under a tent, under a Quonset hut, under a house, under a stormy sky, and we just need to get that out. It's a great, because there's a great story there. It just has not been told.
But the fact that you're verbalizing it is the first step, right? Like that's the problem, and you verbalized it with somebody like Adam, who's very good at what he does in KBL. Is Bob going to be the face, or is it going to be kind of like success stories of people that have come through, or how do you kind of tell the story?
Well, I think we're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
Because kind of like Bob said, that a lot of that depends on what we can get access to and how willing people are, to be a part of that story. Going forward, we can kind of write the plan for what's going to happen from October 2nd forward, but kind of looking back, like Bob said, like we don't even have a list of people that have used these services yet. So it's kind of hard to tell. I think ideally this is a little bit different from your traditional client here, where it's easy to assign a face to campaigns. I think in this case, it's as nice as Bob's face is, I think it's just more communicating that they do so much out of their office and they help so many different kinds of people. I think it's far more just branding that office as like if you're a displaced worker or somebody that's facing unemployment issues, which Lord knows we have a handful of them today, or just a business that's looking for assistance in hiring or anything like that. I think our main job is just to communicate that yep, we do all of that, and then just show up and then we'll point you in the direction you need to go. Mm-hmm. It feels like that's going to be kind of the play here, and just communicating all of that,
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm hearing is, what Bob and his team and his business can do is they can help us dig out of this hole, whether it be the individual, whether it be the business owner, whether it be somebody that's been in business for a year, somebody's been in business 30 years. Like I said, we all got punched in the gut. And it's almost like I'm almost envisioning, Bob and his team with a rope, helping us kind of pull people out of this thing. If he can be part of the solution. I mean, to me, that's the story that I would resonate with is as a business owner, a restaurant, or, we pick on restaurants a lot. We love our restaurants. But they could be a great resource. You just said it. You just walk down the street and talk to 3 or 4, you talk to your coffee guys, I'm sure, and you talk to all the people that you frequent on a weekly basis. Hey, did you know Bob's group did this? No, I had no idea. So
I just picked up the rest of the menu from a brand new restaurant right down the street.
See, there you go. Almost, he's providing somewhat of a lifeline. He's like the life preserver a little bit. So, I mean, that's what I'm hearing. What a fun story to tell.
One thing that I don't think can be understated is that I think that there's going to be so much value in just showing that an arm of a local municipality is actually giving enough of a shit to reach out and be proactive. I think a lot of times, and it's hard to be flexible and adapt at the government level. I fully understand that, but I think for the longest time, it was just kind of like these resources were here, and then it was up to you to seek them out and do your own research and make your own calls and try to find that out. So I think just the mere fact that we have an organization at that level that's going to be reaching out to business owners, to unemployed workers, to, I mean, you name it, just showing that, hey, we're here for you. I think that alone is going to be insanely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the other thing we're looking for is actually outreach to, like, you know, non-traditional, you know, folks who've been, who, basically, one of the things that my problems I have, and I've voiced it to my staff, is that we have certain companies that we do business all the time, and I call them the usual suspects, or the mean girls and the old boys, but like they're all pretty well taken care of. And so I said, that's not our job. That's, those folks will take care of themselves every damn time. And frankly, that's why they're sitting high on the hog. The question then comes is, where the people that aren't the usual suspects, the people who aren't traditionally seen at cocktail parties at the banks at the end of the year, and they have all different colors and creeds and shapes, etc. And that just going down there and finding them, the folks who aren't at those cocktail parties, and those are people that I'm basically directing, outreach towards as well. I mean, I'm not excluding anyone, but I know that the folks, there are certain people who have, repeatedly gotten, on the job training money from us. And it's not to say that they're not doing a great job. Some of them are good entry ramps for people to get, whether it's, without, people with or without high school degrees getting into jobs, and they're able to get trained. At some point they go to community college, and they can use that as the initial entry ramp. But there are some folks who just feel, disenfranchised. And one of our things to do is to, as a workforce thing, is to say, is to, again, put that ladder down or put the rope down and pull them on up. But the part of that is I'm all a true believer in agency and responsibility. Is there are things that I'm not there just to, I'm not anyone's mother. I'm kind of like their mean Dutch uncle. But it's there are things you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to do the work. You got to show up on time, and if you don't, my love is very conditional. So let's come on and work, and we'll help you.
But the storytelling is exactly what Adam did over the last bit of your relationship. He stayed in his lane with his 4 or 5 things. He defined his 5 pillars. Right. Now you've got to define your 5 pillars, and just keep talking about the same thing, so that people don't have to seek you out to figure out what you're doing. It's only when you get to the puck, we talk about hockey a lot. It's like, you're not where the puck is, where the puck's going, so that when you do get there, your organization's going to be there, because you've been talking about those things for the last 6, 9, 12, 18 months. And it's that long play of telling the story and having the patience, we use that word a lot, that you're going to grow your business. It may not be tomorrow, may not be in 90 days, may not be in 180 days, but long term, you're going to have a lot of more opportunities than you do today. So it's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's kind of the exciting part of all this, is that, we have that runway, and we have that ability, and we have that level of, I don't know if freedom's the right word, but freedom to do it in a way that, like, one of the reasons that I love working with Bob, whether it's at this level or any level, it's just results based. It's like, what do we have? It's finding ways to get there rather than finding all the reasons we might not be able to. Yep. So I think that's what excites me the most about it. And then just being able to do it. I think like we talk about all the time, man, like anytime that you get to work on something that, like obviously pays you to do it, and you get to work with people that believe in the same shit you believe in, and like actually get to do some good stuff, like it makes it pretty easy to come to work Monday mornings.
It's amazing when you're fulfilled with what you do, how well you feel
right?
today.
And he's even lasted a Friday afternoon. It's amazing.
I'm saying, Friday's my least favorite day. I crave Mondays.
We're getting close to when Adam switches from coffee to beer, so it is Friday.
About 2 hours.
No sin in that.
There you go. Well, this has been, I didn't anticipate. We didn't know that Bob was going to sit in, but this has been great. This is
neither did Bob.
We don't plan any of this. We just go. So.
We just go. And I think for me, it's Bob, you have such a unique opportunity. Obviously I'm biased, but you're sitting with the right guy to help you tell the story. But
I believe so.
Yeah, no, this has been great. I think for me, Adam, this is just this is rubber hits the road stuff. I know we're 30 episodes through this, and we talk a lot about, you know, Bob, we actually repeat ourselves a lot on this show, and we do that for a reason. We want people to be successful, but we have to continue to drill the same 4 or 5 things into people's heads. And it's not rocket science. What he and I do is not rocket science. Yes, we know, you know, he knows about Facebook pixels, and I know about, you know, what I know about, but it's the same stuff, what I talk about. It's attention, it's telling a great story, and figuring out where the people that you want to do business with, where they live and where they currently consume their content, and making sure that you're telling a story in the way somebody wants to hear it. That's really the bottom line for us. So this, for me, this has been a great illustration of, you know, what you guys have done to now, but more importantly, watching what you guys are going to do in the future. So kudos to you guys. I'm excited to watch.
Well, it should be a wild ride, and I think we're going to have some fun too.
Good.
As always.
Good. All right. Well, thanks, gentlemen. That was great. Thanks everybody for listening, watching, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes now, Adam, iTunes, and rock and roll, man. Have a great weekend, gentlemen.
Great. Take care. Nice to meet you.
See ya.